Well, hello there, Knights community. This is Mr. Fajardo coming to you live from Shadow Hills High School with our Knights COVID-19 update. Some revisions were made to the COVID-19 safety plan from DSUSD, Desert Sands Unified, and we wanted to take the time to review what those material changes were. So this way that can bring you more clarity as to what you need to do when it comes to COVID-19 whenever a student of yours might be either exposed and are unfortunately infected with COVID-19. We're going to go over some of the parameters as it relates to the updates. So joining me today, we do have with us Ms. Hernandez, our assistant principal. She'll be noting and going through a few slides here in just a moment with you. Also, our school nurse, Ms. Krebs, she's joining us today, as well as Dr. Kalkowski in our Knights Parent University. So thank you, Dr. K, for joining us as well. That said, we're going to go on and move on to the next slide, and Ms. Hernandez will make a little few reminders for us here.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just as a reminder, we do have banners around the campus that tell our Knights to stay safe and wear a mask. A face covering is to be worn at all times indoors. You will see these across our campus, around the stadium, around our gates, and even in our quad areas as a reminder to all students and staff. Next slide, please. Now, just a couple of reminders. Masks are to be worn indoors at all times by students and staff on campus. This is a requirement by DSUSD. And even for visitors that step onto our campus, they are to wear masks as well. One thing that is not allowed are gaiters, scarves, ski masks, bandanas, turtlenecks, and single layer masks are not allowed on campus. And we also have surgical masks available to students and staff upon request. One thing that we have right at the beginning at the front gate when our gates open, we have surgical masks laid out for students so that they can come and pick up when they're entering through the gates in the morning. So just always remember to wear your mask and stay safe.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And now Ms. Krebs is going to walk us through a few scenarios if you're feeling sick for school and what the new updated quarantine modules are for us in the safety plan. Ms. Krebs.
Yes. Okay. So as a reminder, if you're unsure whether to send your student to school or not, you want to keep anybody home who is not manageable at school. So if they have allergies and they, take medicine and they're fine, they can go to school. If they have asthma, they have an inhaler, it's something that's chronic, they can go to school. If it's something that you think is contagious, you want to keep them home. Any new symptoms, any fever, you want to keep home, cough, any of the COVID symptoms like loss of taste or smell, or you're just not sure, you want to keep them home and test them before you send them to school. So this is what we use here on campus. If your student is at school and they have any of these symptoms, they will be seen in the isolation room. They will be tested if you have consented for them to be tested. They will be sent home either for 24 hours or for 5 days at a minimum if they are found to have COVID symptoms or be positive. So I'm going to go over the scenarios. Anybody who is positive, regardless of vaccination status, has to stay home for 5 days. So day 0, if you're positive, starts at either symptom start day or the day they tested positive. So let's say you tested positive on January 1st. We would start counting at least 5 days from the next day. So they would stay home the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And on that 5th day, they can test with a rapid antigen test. If that test is negative, they can return to school on the 6th day. So they would come back on the 7th. And this is pretty much the biggest change. It was 10 days before. So this is for almost every situation is this case. They would test 5 days from their, symptomatic day, exposure day, or positive day. So if they tested positive on that 5th day, they would have to stay home another 5 days. So they would have to complete the 10-day quarantine. And again, day 0 is that first day that you were positive or you had symptoms. So it would be 10 days after that, and then they come back on the 11th day. And that's vaccinated or unvaccinated.
So in terms of, Ms. Krebs, there's different scenarios, right, compared to a student who may be exposed to COVID-19, who is vaccinated. Clearly in the safety plan, it does outline in Appendix D what that scenario looks like in terms of if the student is either asymptomatic, no symptoms, or if they are showing symptoms, aka symptomatic, correct?
Yeah. So that was the positive COVID case. For the exposure, so if you're vaccinated, fully vaccinated, that means 2 weeks after your second shot, you are considered vaccinated, you're exposed, you have no symptoms at all, you can continue to come to school. You don't have to test. We recommend you test again at that 5th day after the exposure, or if you develop symptoms at any time. If you are unvaccinated and you do not have symptoms and you were a mask to mask exposure at school, you can continue to come to school, but you are required to test. So you can test. You're required to test at the 5-day. You're required to test twice in the time, but you can continue to come to school if you are completely asymptomatic. You have no symptoms at all. If you have symptoms, you were exposed, you have symptoms, you're unvaccinated, you need to stay home. You can test that first day, but you need to stay home for the minimum of 5 days. And you test on that 5th day. If you are negative and you do not have any symptoms, you can come to school. You're going to come to school still with the mask. You're going to be like careful for those 10 days since your exposure. You may have been negative on that 5th day, but we know people test positive on the 10th day. We know that they get it later. They can get it later on. So they're going to wear a mask but after that 5th day, you're negative, you can come to school. If you develop any symptoms during that time, after that, you want to stay home and test.
And in terms of a student and a family not wanting their child to be tested, assuming that they're unvaccinated and they don't want to be subjected to the testing, do they still complete the 10-day quarantine? Is that
Yes.
The new update as well?
Yes. So they would have to complete that 10-day quarantine. So again, if you were exposed on January 1st, you would stay home, the 10 days after that and return on the 11th day.
Thank you for that, Ms. Krebs. And again, all that information is available, you guys. For those of you watching, the website is scrolling at the bottom of the screen there, and you can find the revised COVID-19 safety plan that has all these updates that we're just providing you in summary form. In which case, there was also an update to the general notifications that we do send out from the school regarding whenever a person has become infected with COVID-19. This general notification goes out through our school messaging system via email format. So if you don't have a current email address with us, please do contact the school so we can get your updated email contact information. And the other change that happened as a result of some of the material change in the letter, the way it reads, but we don't necessarily have to send out the letter each time we have a case on the same day. For example, today is January 26th. Assuming that we had a positive case today that came our way, we would send out this general notification at the end of the school day. If there was more than one case on the same school day, the one notification is sufficient. So that's the material change as it relates to the notification. The same is true also for the exposure to our staff members, otherwise known as our AB 685 staff letter. AB is Assembly Bill 685. So we do the same thing when we notify our staff of any active case from a person on our site, in which case they're notified as such. And again, the same rule applies if there's more than one person on campus who's been exposed. Clearly, the only one notification that goes out to staff, much like we do with the parent notification as well. And again, that just wanted to make sure that we revise that point with you folks. That said, we're going to move on to the next part, which takes us back to Ms. Hernandez.
Hi, everyone. So for this one, we're just going to talk about a couple things in regards to the cleanliness of the campus. We're still cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing throughout the entire day. That's happening every night with our night custodians going through all the classrooms, making sure that they're cleaned, they're sanitized, they're disinfected. And that includes every part of our campus. That's a priority. It's been our number one. So we're just making sure that that's being taken care of. Our tables being pressured washed, disinfected, and sanitized also throughout the day. So we're making sure, doing our best to ensure that students and staff feel safe on campus.
Awesome. Thank you. And big kudos to our custodial staff, our ground staff, and all the other folks that are around, even nutrition services everybody doing such a great job to ensure that we do keep our campus as safe as possible. So thank you for that. Dr. K, attendance.
Hello, Knights families. Hashtag we care attendance. And attendance still does matter. It's very difficult when your child is out, but there are a few steps that we're asking you to please follow to make sure you're letting us know that they're out with COVID and anytime that they're out. This slide talks to you about the information that you can please email. And there it is, shh.attendance@desertsands.us. Please include the following information in the email. You can put report an absence. Please put the date. And if you'd like to even put on there COVID so that we know right away, that would be fine as well if you feel comfortable doing that. Parent, guardian name, the student name, date of birth, the student's ID, their grade, and a contact phone number for verification should the office need to call you back as necessary. And please, too, if you would include the date of positivity of the COVID test, if you would please remember to do that. Similarly, you may also call the school. So if you can't email, you may call. You have to just wait a little bit to go through all of the different selections, but then you would go to the attendance office selection and leave that same information. It's a rather lengthy voicemail, but that's okay. The attendance office folks listen to the voicemail and then they code correctly for your student being out for whatever it is. And so please do remember to call. Otherwise, I'm going to be calling you about absences and chronic absences. So we would rather hear from you first. Similarly, and finally, please have your students, as they're doing, contact their teachers. If they're well enough to at all, please stay in touch with their teachers, checking their Google Classroom and for assignments so that they don't miss too much during that time that they're out with illness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. K. And again, big kudos to our attendance team. Both Ms. Quintero and Mrs. Sandoval have been awesome. We've had a considerable uptick of absences, as we all know, resulting from the pandemic. So we really appreciate all of our families' patience and understanding and compassion when it comes to clearing those absences. And we realize that you may still be receiving those school messenger absence calls. I get them still too, because we were impacted by, COVID-19. So I get it, you guys, but I'm right there with you, families. So we thank you for that. That said, I'm going to take us to the next slide, which has to do with our testing clinics that Ms. Krebs will wrap up for us.
Okay, so we are going to be offering testing at different sites every day of the week after school, 3:30 to 5:30. These are PCR tests, and the results should be resulted in a more timely manner. We have changed, who's doing these tests. They are going to be also offering the rapid test after school at the district. And then we have testing on site as well for students.
And that's actually what we're looking forward to, Ms. Krebs, because we did have some questions from families. If rapid, antigen testing will be made available at the testing clinics. And it's our understanding that starting January 31st, starting at the DEC North building, the rapid antigen testing will be made available to staff, students. So look for more information from the district on that. And you can always go and visit the page that we have listed there for additional information as well. Anything else for the good of the order from the team before we end it? All right, that said, guys, I want to thank once again Dr. Kokoski, Ms. Hernandez, Nurse Krebs for the information. Folks, we hope this provides you with more clarity. And as always, if you have more questions, please feel free to also access our website where we have a lot of information about COVID-19 at www.shadowhillshs.com. You can also visit the district's website, as I mentioned, on the scrolling marquee that's listed for you, or you can always call the school for more information. Once again, thank you on behalf of us all here at Shadow Hills High School. And always remember that Knights do it
Right.
right.
Woo!
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.